Hi, this is Marcel of Marcel on Tech, and today we are talking about a massive change that I've made for the month of December because I wanted to try probably what is one of the most popular, unique brand phones, which is, of course, the Apple iPhone. And I haven't actually used the iPhone for about 8 years. I was a big fan of the early edition iPhones, then they got really silly in price. And then I realized that Android was a market leader. So I thought in terms of technology. So I thought, let's switch back after all this time. This device is the first time the iPhone has actually really interested me because it's now got USB Type-C, which is universal, which is fantastic. And the camera quality on this has been brilliant. But otherwise, is there really a reason why I should pay 1,600 euros for this device? Let me try and identify that for you and explain why you might want to consider it. Let's get into it. So, as you may know, if you follow this channel already, I am a huge fan of Android and in particular the Samsung Galaxy devices. They, for me, have really pushed the boundaries of technology. They are really, really good. They're very, very reliable. The Samsung One UI software really optimizes Android in a brilliant way. And of course, the versatility of Android is absolutely brilliant. I use this still to this day for recording most of these videos. But when it comes to camera tech and video tech, there's something about iPhones that still, despite the fact having tested the S23 Ultra, this device, the iPhone 15 Pro or the Pro Max, really is absolutely market leading in terms of what they can do, both in terms of camera, but also in terms of gaming and screen quality as well. So what I wanted to do is just tell you what the differences have been between the Androids that I've been using and my adoption of back into the Apple ecosystem. Now you may find or see that I've got the iPhone 14 Pro here as well. This is actually my daughter's phone. And I gifted this to her because it was something that she really, really wanted. And it is a very, very good phone. And what I wanted to do as well was identify the differences between these two devices. Because in reality, what is the real difference in terms of you spending maximum pounds or dollars or euros on the latest device compared to maybe a 2 or 3 year old device? Now, the first thing that stands out is the always-on display. This has an always-on display. The 15 Pro has the always-on display, whereas the 12 does not have an always-on display. So that is quite a big deal if that's important to you. Now, for my daughter, it doesn't make any difference. For me, it kind of matters. But the interesting thing about the iPhone 15 that I found a little bit distracting is how bright the always-on is, because it's actually quite bright in terms of it always being much less subtle than I thought it was going to be. Mostly on Android, you've just got a very simple outline of the clock or some notifications. With this one, you've got your whole wallpaper totally visible all the time. So it takes a little bit of getting used to. It's actually quite distracting in a way because it doesn't really sink in. It just lets you know that the screen is always on in a way. So that is both useful but also distracting, and that depends on whether or not that's interesting for you. Now, you can, of course, switch that off. You can switch off your always-on display if you want to, but I found that despite the widgets being here and so on, a lot of the information that is displayed, not really that useful. You've got the notifications that scroll across the bottom, which we're all used to, but of course, that's a software feature, which of course applies to all of the older devices anyway that have got the latest updates. I'm running iOS 17.2 on both of these devices because I'm on the beta program. And to be honest, they run the same. They really do. In terms of the speed, the operations, the movement, the fluidity, the unlocking process, the layout. Of course, we all know that iPhone is exactly the same as it's been for the last at least 6 years, if not since the creation of it. And the fluidity movement is exactly the same. Now, of course, we are rocking the premium panel on this, the 15 Pro, which of course has the high refresh rate, and it is very, very smooth and fluid. It is slightly less fluid on the 12 Pro, a bit janky, but if you're not an expert or if you're not a pixel observer, there's going to be very minimal differences as well. So in terms of what you're going to get in terms of usability, there's not that much difference. So the 15 Pro is sporting the dynamic island, which for me, I've kind of forgotten about it. I actually didn't realize that there are two separate cameras there that have been software to be combined. You've obviously got the face recognition system and then the selfie camera. But there's actually screen real estate in between as well. The difference, really, it is better than the notch. I'll give it that. This notch is just weird and excessive. But you do really kind of forget about it, which is quite nice. Obviously, you can pinch to zoom in or zoom out, so you can have it showing or not showing with a black background. But it's not really that great in terms of optimization. They've obviously got the symbols when you're playing Spotify or listening to music, or you've got a message it kind of symbolizes. But I really feel like they underutilize the desert island, as I call it, because it doesn't really do very much. It could do more. Anyway, let's put it that way. So it's okay, but you do kind of forget about it. Again, coming back to cameras, when you do take a selfie, there is quality there. Also, the facial ID unlocking is very good, even amazing when you consider that it works in the dark. I ride a motorbike, I can wear my visor, and it still works. Not my face mask, but my reflective sun visor. It'll still unlock even when I've got this there.
So the iPhone 15 Pro Max does allow for 4K video recording. I noticed that the stabilization is not quite as good as it is in 1080p, but could be worse, and the video quality does look extremely good. I wonder what the sound quality is like. So this is the rear-facing camera using 4K at 30 FPS. See if there's any more stabilization, but otherwise, of course, the video quality is going to be very crispy, as is usually the sound. It's very, very bright here, but hopefully you're not going to see a huge difference between the front and the rear-facing cameras.
So integrating this in comparison with my Android. Now, the good thing is, of course, they have massively updated the switching process. So you install an app onto your Android device, which is moved to iOS. That will allow you to send across all compatible apps to your new device when setting this up, and it will install them very, very quickly. The process of installation was very fast. I don't know if you watched my review on the OnePlus, but that was the fastest transfer process on any Android I've ever seen. This transfer from an Android to iOS was very, very fast as well. So I was really impressed with that. So that helps. Now, of course, there are some apps you won't get compatibility with, so some things won't work. And one of the annoyances that I had was that, of course, because this is Apple, with all my Google connections, which I've got many on this device, then I have to log in each time with each one, despite the fact that it does have my login details stored in the iCloud. What it then got to do, which was very useful, was that when I selected the account that I needed, I was then able to use Facial ID to use the passkey storage system. So I would select the account, it would ask me if I wanted to input the details using my facial recognition, and then it logged me in. But I had to log into Gmail, I had to log into various calendars that I use. So it wasn't that straightforward, and it wasn't as smooth as I would have liked it to be. But it's a different operating system, so it does make sense. And now, of course, now that I've got it up and running, everything works seamlessly. I'm definitely using Gmail on here because the mail app on here is still as bad as it was 8 years ago. So it just irritates me. So I deleted that. And the good thing that I've noticed as well, you can delete apps now. You can actually delete Apple's own apps, which is very, very nice. You can obviously remove some off the home screen, or you can remove them altogether and delete them off the device, which is a nice change from when they blocked you from doing that. There are some update apps in here that I don't really see much point for, particularly the lack of stylus usage on here. So you've got Freeform app, which you may be familiar with, which is kind of like a sketching drawing app. There's loads of apps like that on the App Store. I'm not quite sure why it comes along with every iPhone. And then you've got now a brand new journaling app as well, which is quite interesting. This actually installed after the 7.2 update. I didn't put this in myself. And this is an Apple device, obviously Apple app, encouraging you to journal and experience for your own mental health, etc. Whether or not that's a good thing to do actually on a digital screen, the jury's still out. I think that's still better to do on pen and paper. I think that's just better for you generally. But it's a nice addition to have. And if you want to know more about that app, let me know. Put a comment below. I'd love to hear if you want me to do some more info on that. And again, because all the apps appear on your home screen, you will see tons and tons of apps on your home screen unless you delete them off and you only then stay with the library. And of course, this looks the same on the 12 Pro as it does on the 15 Pro as well. And this is the 15 Pro Max, just to highlight. So obviously, the thing that stands out the most about these two, of course, is going to be the size. And if we're talking about the size of the back, we're talking about the size of the front, which obviously means that you're going to get a lot more screen with the Max version. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to get the same with the 12 Pro Max, because you've got very fluid movement. It's very good at operating. The cameras are still very good. And you're going to get the same size as you are with the 15 Pro Max. So if you're looking to get an Apple product, absolutely consider getting a refurbished or a second-hand device from the previous generations, because the disparity is not that big if you're just looking to get an Apple operating system and cameras are not the most important thing to you, because the cameras on this are very good. The cameras on this are excellent. So the difference is not massive. And if cameras are not the be all and end all for you, then you will be very happy with a 12, a 13 or a 14 device if you can get it for a good price and you don't have to worry about getting the 15. If you've got a 12 or newer device, I wouldn't even bother upgrading because it isn't that much different. There might be a difference coming along in the future, but until that happens, you are definitely not going to gain an awful lot by spending an awful lot of money on the brand new 15. So how does my usability compare with using an Android device? Well, what I do like about this, there are some features that I really like. MagSafe is super handy. I've bought a case that has MagSafe built into it, but of course it's built onto the back here anyway. And I bought a stand as well. Now, one feature that I really like that I think they've been very clever with, and I'm amazed other manufacturers don't do it, which is nightstand. So when you put it onto the nightstand right next to your bed and it has MagSafe and charging, it goes into nightstand mode, which is not only much less obtrusive in terms of lighting because it goes a red color, and it doesn't even have much glow, which is one of the problems with all overnight displays, etc., or phone clock displays, etc. It also displays useful information, which could be photos, it could be a calendar, it could be reminders, it could be obviously a clock. That has been very well done. I'm so impressed that they've done that, but it works the same on this device as well. When I put this on the nightstand, it does exactly the same thing and shows exactly the same stuff. So again, software-wise, you're getting everything you've got with your legacy devices. So it's really not a bad thing if you want to go for an older device. But of course, because of the sheer size of the 15, it does look amazing, which is fair enough. But that's a very, very useful and clever feature, which I don't have and haven't seen on any Android device that hasn't been obtrusive or offensive or too bright, because I want my room to be nice and dark. One of the differences between the 15 Pro and, of course, anything prior to it is the action button. Now, the action button is literally a push button above the volume rockers, which is the switch over from the manual mute switch that most people really, really liked on the previous versions of the iPhone. So the action button allows you to customize what it will do. So it can mute it, obviously, it can activate the camera immediately. I've got it set so that when I press the button and hold it, I go straight to my WhatsApp. So that is quite a useful function, but you can set it to any app you want. Has it changed my life? No. Have I remembered to do it? No. Is it automatic or muscle memory? No, not really. And because this is quite a large device, reaching up there actually isn't very practical, because the power button, even though I've got quite big hands, the power button is perfectly reachable, as are the volume ones, but I have to make an extra special effort to go up to the top of where the action button is. So it hasn't become part of my muscle memory yet. There probably could be more actions that would be useful for it, but at the moment it's pretty basic but functional. So I don't necessarily think it was a brilliant idea, but it's not a bad one because it could have lots of opportunity in the future. Now, I have also recently upgraded, or should I say, recently switched over to the Apple Watch as well, and I'm going to make a separate video about that. But I've been using the Apple Watch since the beginning of the month as well, integrating it with the phone and, of course, the health app. And I'm going to be able to directly compare Samsung's health application using the Galaxy Watch, and I'm going to be able to directly compare with the Apple Watch Series 8 as well. So far, the integrations have been great in terms of the phone and the watch. I have to say the layout of this has been surprisingly nice. I do like the watch faces, despite them being limited. And I really like the connection between the two devices. It seems very well defined and refined on the watch as well, but that's another video. Battery life. Now, of course, with these newer devices, they are becoming more battery efficient, but I have to say the iPhone 15 Pro has given me very few problems. Now, the advantage for me is I have wireless chargers in most locations, at work and at home and in my car. So this thing is always getting the chance to be topped up, which is super duper handy. And I enjoy doing that as well. And it always means I'm not really thinking about it. In fact, what I wanted to do is I'm going to do a stress test to run out the battery and not put it on any of my charging stands and see how long it lasts. Now, I've managed so far to last a day and a half. I'm at 51%, and I've had this on since yesterday morning without charging it. I'm a heavy user normally, but yesterday I was very busy, so I wasn't using the phone as much. So I dare say, if I was using this more, I didn't make any videos or photos yesterday, so that might be a big part of it. If I had, that might have put a lot more stress, but I'm at 51 and I'm now at midday on day 2, which is pretty good. So I'm very, very impressed with that. But as I say, if you put this on a charger on a regular basis, then you won't even need to charge it at night because the battery decrease whilst you are asleep is minimal. I think I lost about 6% last night, even though the always on display was on as well. So really, really power efficient. So overall, what has the switchover been like? Well, so far my impression has been good. I've only had it for around 7 days, 6 or 7 days, and the switchover process was very easy. I've enjoyed some of the features. I don't enjoy some of the other features, such as it not be allowing me to have all of the apps that I want. Obviously, I've had apps on Android that now won't function on the Apple, but that's a given, obviously, with the different systems. I've also had paid for apps on Android, which also won't switch over across, which is a bit unfortunate. Is there a huge difference? Because I was directly contrasting the 12 Pro. No, there is actually much less of a difference than I thought, which is great for the older devices, but gives less reason as to why you would want to spend so much money on a brand new device unless you really, really needed those cameras. Everything else, obviously the cameras and maybe the screen, but unless you're very, very finicky about your screen, even that you're not going to notice a huge difference in. So value for money is not there yet for me. Unless it's a second-hand device, unless you're getting a massive deal, it's just not worth buying this brand new. However, what you do get if you've got the money or you want to is a great device. So far, I'm absolutely loving it, but I will do another video after a bit more time in order to fully evaluate and review the device, as well as sharing more of the video and camera qualities. Okay, hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts. I'm trying to post every Saturday, so make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you very, very soon for the next one. Bye-bye for now.